بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. So this will inshallah be the second majlis in the 40 Nawawi Hadith. There will be some changes after last time. Actually I was not satisfied by last majlis, and I think inshallah we could do better together. So one of the main things is that it will be all in English. We're not going to make this hybrid Arabic English because it just consumes time, and actually it confuses me a little bit to keep on switching from Arabic to English and back. Actually it's easier for me to do it in Arabic, but since most of the audience or all of the audience will understand English, so let it be. So we'll first start today inshallah by completion for the first hadith. Inshallah, as I told you, I was not satisfied by last time, so maybe inshallah we'll repeat this first hadith again, but later, not now. Maybe when we finish the 40 hadith or the 50 hadith. The niyyah inshallah is that when we finish this 40, we'll complete the 8 hadith that Ibn Rajab added to them, and maybe when we finish those 50 hadith, we'll repeat this first hadith again. So anyways, when Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala narrated the first hadith, he said, رواه إمام المحدثين أبو عبد الله محمد بن إسماعيل بن إبراهيم ابن المغيرة ابن بردزبة البخاري، وأبو الحسين مسلم بن الحجاج ابن مسلم القشيري النيسابوري في صحيحيهما اللذين هما أصح الكتب المصنفة. So what he said is that this hadith is reported by the two great imams, meaning say the leaders of the muhaddithin. Muhaddithin is the scholar of hadith. Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ismail ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Mughira ibn Bardizbah al-Bukhari. And by the way, Bardizbah, so this is something like close to Farsi, and in Bukhara at that time Bardizbah meant like the farmer or something like that. So this, his grandfather, and this Bardizbah was not a Muslim, by the way. The first one to be a Muslim is al-Mughira, and then his sons became all Muslims. And Abu al-Husayn Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj ibn Muslim al-Qushayri al-Nisaburi, in their two collections of authentic narrations, which are the two most authentic books compiled. So for this reason, since the intention was to make those sessions or those majalis to be more like setting foundation in the knowledge and the Islamic knowledge, and we don't want just to pass by the hadith as quickly. We want to go a little bit in deep. It won't be too much in deep. So we're gonna just have a quick comment on this line or what he said. Who is Bukhari? Who is Muslim? And what about their books? Let's start with this and then we'll proceed with the next hadith inshallah. So first of all, Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala was born on 194 of Hijrah. This is about 810 in the Gregorian calendar, in Bukhara, which in present day Uzbekistan. And this area was formerly known as Khorasan. It's rarely used these days. Nobody mentions it as Khorasan anymore. But anyways, it's on Uzbekistan. And he died in the same country in... Okay, so this city that he died at and is buried at till today, and his tomb or his grave is known and famous, is called Kharatnak. It's just a little bit to the north of Samarkand, also in Uzbekistan. He died at about 256. So from 194 to 256 is around 60 years. So he died at about 60. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala met and learned from a huge number of sheikhs. He met 1,080 sheikhs, which is a big number. And he traveled to seek the knowledge of hadith to a lot of places. He went to Sham, he went to Egypt, he went to Hijaz and stayed there for 6 years, meaning between Mecca and Medina. He stayed there for 6 years after his pilgrimage, and went to Iraq many times, especially to Basra and Baghdad, where those were really full of scholars and so. So he met a lot of scholars and sheikhs at those cities. From his sheikhs is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. And Imam Ahmad said, as word in Bukhari, he said, no one came from Khurasan like this man. There's no one better than, no one more knowledgeable than this Imam Muhammad ibn Bukhari rahimahullah. From his sheikhs is Ishaq ibn Rahawayh. Okay, you will hear it Rahawayh or Rahoya. It's more famous Rahoya, but the correct pronunciation is Rahawayh, like Rahawayh, Sibawayh, Mardawayh. This is the correct pronunciation. A lot of muhaddithin mention it like this: Rahawayh, Sibawayh, Rahoya, Mardoya, and things like that. But the correct pronunciation is Rahawayh, Sibawayh, things like that. And also, Ali ibn al-Madini, rahimahullah ta'ala, was from his sheikhs. Imam Bukhari said, I never felt myself small except in front of Ali. So he was a great Imam. And just imagine, Imam Bukhari is like a mountain in knowledge. Just he never felt himself so small in front of someone except for Ali ibn al-Madini. Another one is Imam Yahya ibn al-Madini, Yahya ibn Ma'in, who is also a very popular muhaddith. So what about his students? From his students is Imam Muslim, rahmahullah ta'ala, Imam al-Nasa'i, Imam al-Tirmidhi, Abu Bakr ibn Khuzaymah, and others. So just imagine this, when you say that the main books of Sunnah or main books of Hadith, we have the 6 books, which is Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, An-Nasa'i, At-Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, and we mention here Imam Muslim and Imam Nasa'i and Imam At-Tirmidhi. All of them are students for Imam Bukhari, rahmahullah ta'ala. He mentioned about himself, he said, I memorized 100,000 authentic Hadith and 200,000 non-authentic Hadith. This is what he memorized. And then this might be at the beginning. And by the way, when you say hadith, like when you say hadithu innama al-a'malu bin-niyat, each chain of narration is considered a hadith when they say that. When they say 100,000 hadith, so if he narrated hadith innama al-a'malu bin-niyat from 10 chains of narrations or from 10 ways of narration, from 10 different sheikhs, it's considered 10 hadiths. Because if you see now and you collect all the hadiths that we have today, they won't be that much. They want maybe at most 12, 16,000. That's it. So when you say 100,000, I'm going to mention the millions later. So this is by the chains of narrations, not like only the text of the hadith itself. He was also a very pious man. It was said that in Ramadan, he used to recite the Quran every single day. So in Ramadan, you're going to recite on the days the Quran 30 times in Ramadan. And after Taraweeh, he would go and pray and recite every day in this prayer after Taraweeh 10 juz. So it finished also every 3 days. Or every 3 nights. He said that I hope to meet Allah, and Allah doesn't hold me accountable for backbiting anyone. As actually this is known about Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala. Even when he talked about people who were narrators of hadith but who didn't have good memorization or had something just to say that they're not that competent or we cannot depend on them very much, he used to have this, kindest words to describe that, just to avoid being a backbiter or just avoid falling in this backbiting. So that's why ulama, when they see what Bukhari said rahimahullah ta'ala, they understand. You might see this word, it's very light, but no, he meant something severe, because he was very cautious with this. About why he compiled this book, it was that he heard his Shaykh Ishaq ibn Rahawayh saying, if somebody compiles a summarized book about the authentic sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Bukhari felt it in himself. He said, okay, this touched my heart. This fell in my heart. And he started compiling the book. He also said, I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as if I'm standing in front of him or by him with a fan in my hand and just pushing away from him like flies or something like that. And then so he went to ask one of those who can interpret dreams. And by the way, this is not to be taken lightly, the interpretation of dreams. No, it's knowledge, it's ilm, it has its rules, it has its... Not anyone can just say anything, and it's considered a futya. You know, in Surah Yusuf, يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم لرؤيا تعبرون. So it's not something to be taken lightly. Anyway, so when he told this mu'abbir, or this one who can interpret the ru'yas, so he told him, you are defending him against lies or the fabrications that are, that are what you call that. People say that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that and he didn't say. So he became determined to release this book. His book named Authentic Collection, or the Jami' al-Sahih. While collecting his book, he mentioned about himself. He said, I didn't include any of those hadiths in the book without first bathing, making ightisal, and praying 2 rak'ahs first before writing any hadith in the book. And spent 16 years to compile this book. So this is a huge effort. Just imagine if you want every night when he's writing, and he's writing 20 hadiths, even 5-6 hadiths, and every time he wants to write hadith, he would just go make ightisal, pray 2 rak'ahs, and of course pray or say istikhara, and then add this hadith. And he said, I haven't included in this book except an authentic hadith. And I didn't include a lot of authentic hadiths because I didn't want the book to be big or huge. I wanted to keep it concise. And when he finished compiling his book, he showed it to his teachers. He showed it to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He showed it to Yahya ibn Ma'in. And he showed it to Ali ibn al-Madini. And all of them approved the book and said yes. They agreed that what is in it is authentic. So it's not only an effort of one person. Even though if you hear about Imam Bukhari, he's a very, very big alim. He's one of the biggest imams. But even though he just didn't depend totally on himself, he showed it to his sheikhs to take feedback from them. And you see that the Imam Muslim made something similar. This is a short biography about Imam Bukhari. And we need to say that to know this is, so those are our imams, those are our, those are our real grandfathers. These are people we live and depend on them, on our knowledge till today. So about the Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala, he was born around 206 after Hijrah, which is around 821, 822 in the Gregorian calendar, in Naysabur. It's now in northeast of present-day Iran. And don't think that Iran today is, it's a Shia country and it was like that back then. No, for a long time, Iran was a main place for Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. For a long, long time. At that time, Egypt was full of those Fatimiyin and stuff. And it was never the same, it's not always the same. Imam Muslim also traveled widely to seek the knowledge of hadith. He went to Iraq, he went to Hijaz again, and Syria and Egypt. And scholars agreed that his knowledge is high, and he precedes in the knowledge of hadith others who are living at the same time, and that he is a great imam. From his sheikhs, also Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal again, and Ishaq ibn Rahawayh again, and Yahya ibn Ma'in also, and Imam al-Bukhari. Imam Bukhari was also one of his sheikhs, and Imam Muslim was very fond of him. That one time he told him, you are the teacher of the teachers, This is how fond of him he was. From his students, also Imam al-Tirmidhi, and Abu Bakr ibn Khuzaymah and others. So again, this is one of the other of the collectors of the 6 books. Imam Tirmidhi again is a student of Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala. He said that he selected the hadiths of his book from 300,000 hadiths and spent also 15 years in compiling this. And said about his book, if those who seek the knowledge of hadith keeps writing hadith for 200 years, they will still come back to my book. They will still be orbiting around this musnad that I collected. Meaning to say that they always be referring to and depend on what he collected. And he was honest in that, and he spoke the truth in that. When he finished compiling this book, he also presented it to Abu Zur'a al-Razi and reviewed it with him and said anything that Abu Zur'a told me, no, don't include it, he just took it out. Of course, Abu Zur'a told him don't include it because this reason and that reason. So he reviewed it with Abu Zur'a after he finished. After the 15 years he spent, he reviewed it with Abu Zur'a. Just to know, Abu Zur'a is one of the greatest Imams of Hadith. Abu Zur'a said, you know, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he memorizes 1,000,000 hadiths, so 1,000 hadiths. So I told him, how do you know that? He told, I studied with him, I revised it with him. So he's also a big Imam of Hadith. There's also a short biography about Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala. So about the books, the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, or As-Sahihain. So the first piece of information is that the first person to compile a book with only Sahih, only authentic hadith, was Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, followed by Imam Muslim, and then others came after, but the Imams who came after didn't reach the same rank as those 2 books. Just a side note, why would great Imams include authentic and non-authentic hadith in the same book? Knowing that this hadith is authentic is knowledge, and knowing that this hadith is not authentic is knowledge. This is a short answer. Another answer is that some kinds of hadith that are not considered authentic, you don't depend on them by themselves. But maybe if this hadith and then it's the same opinion of a Sahabi, it's the same as one of the qiyas, then it's accepted by the surrounding things, not on its own. So that's why ulama al-hadith also include this, because knowing that this hadith is not authentic is ilm, and you might need it later and depend on it by not only by itself, with other pieces of evidence. Scholars agree that those 2 books are the most correct books. Of course, Quran not included, this is after Quran. However, the scholars have different opinion which book is more authentic or is higher ranking. Most of them, or the majority, say that it's Bukhari. And this is because they agree that Bukhari is more knowledgeable than Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala. And that the conditions or the criteria for Imam Bukhari to consider a hadith a sahih or authentic hadith is more stringent. So that's why they said they preferred Sahih al-Bukhari over Hadith Muslim from this in the authenticity. To be honest, or not to be honest, or to mention also, some of the scholars of the Western Islamic world, like the area of Jazair and Maghrib, Andalus and this area, preferred Sahih Muslim. And they preferred it not because it's more authentic, but rather because it's arranged in a better way. So Imam al-Bukhari would mention the hadith in lots of places in his book. You can find it at the start of his book, in the middle of his book, and at the end of his book. Imam Muslim didn't do that. He narrated the hadith once with all the chain of narrations and everything, and collected all what he wanted to say about each hadith in one place. So it's easier to find the hadith and see what Imam Muslim wanted to say. Those 2 books, we name them the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, but they don't include all the authentic hadith. There are still some authentic hadith that were not mentioned in the books. First of all, they wanted to have a short or a concise books on the authentic Sunnah, and they didn't mean and they didn't intend, they didn't want to include all the authentic hadith. And we said that Imam Bukhari said, I haven't included except an authentic hadith, and I didn't include a lot of authentic hadith because I didn't want the book to be big. So this is about the Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim rahimahumullah ta'ala, and the books. Just as a bonus, the first person to formally compile a book in hadith was Imam Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. He died at 124 of Hijrah. One of the greatest Imam. Zuhri is in Bani Zuhra, so it's from Quraysh. And his compiling was on the order of the great Khalifa, great righteous Khalifa, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah ta'ala. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah ta'ala died on 101. He just ruled for about 2 years, roughly. And he died at the age of 39 and 6 months. He died very young, but he left his fingerprint on this ummah is great, and we still remember him till today. This doesn't mean that hadith before that was not written. No, people had, this is one when we say the first one to officially collect hadith, Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. That was the first book that was what you call a formal book. Before that, people used to have hadith written, like the companions radiallahu anhum, and the people after them used to have hadith written in in papers, in whatever you call, in notebooks and stuff like that, but it's not a formal book, but they had it written. So this is the completion for the first hadith that we mentioned last time. And now let's start with the second. We're gonna join the second and third hadith together. We're gonna mention them together, and we're going to comment on them together because they are close in meaning. So let's see that. Okay. Okay, so the second hadith عن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه أيضا قال بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم إذ طلع علينا رجل شديد بياض الثياب شديد سواد الشعر لا يرى عليه أثر السفر ولا يعرفه منا أحد حتى جلس إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأسند ركبتيه إلى ركبتيه ووضع كفيه على فخذيه وقال يا محمد أخبرني عن الإسلام. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الإسلام أن تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله وتقيم الصلاة وتؤتي الزكاة وتصوم رمضان وتحج البيت إن استطعت إليه سبيلا. قال صدقت. فعجبنا له يسأله ويصدقه. قال فأخبرني عن الإيمان. قال أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وتؤمن بالقدر خيره وشره. قال صدقت. قال فأخبرني عن الإحسان. قال أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. قال فأخبرني عن الساعة. قال ما المسؤول عنها بأعلم من السائل. قال فأخبرني عن أماراتها. قال أن تلد الأمة ربتها وأن ترى الحفاة العراة العالة رعاء الشاء يتطاولون في البنيان. ثم انطلق فلبثنا مليا ثم قال يعني النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام يا عمر أتدري من السائل؟ قلت الله ورسوله أعلم. قال فإنه جبريل أتاكم يعلمكم دينكم. رواه الإمام مسلم. So this second hadith also on the authority of Umar radiallahu anhu said, one day while we were sitting with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man came. This man, he had exceedingly white clothes and exceedingly black hair, which is strange, and no one of us know him, and it's not no sign of travel seen on him, which is strange. Medina is in the desert, so if somebody is coming from outside Medina, it's normal to have, at least not so clean clothes, not so tidy or black hair. At least there will be some dust or something like that. And then he came and sat by the Nabi, by the Prophet ﷺ, and he made his knees touch the Prophet ﷺ's knees, and then he put his hands on his own thighs and asked. He said, "O Muhammad, ﷺ, inform me about Islam." So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "Islam is to testify that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, to establish prayer, to give zakah, to fast Ramadan, and to make pilgrimage, Hajj, to the house, if you're able to do so." So he said, "You have spoken the truth." So the companions wondered. This is asking him and then confirming what he said. Then he said, "Then inform me about Iman, about faith." So the Prophet ﷺ said, "It is to believe in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last day, and to believe in fate, both the good and the evil, or the good and the bad." So I said, "You have spoken the truth." Again he said that. And said, "Then inform me about Islam, about Ihsan." The Prophet ﷺ said, "It is to worship Allah as though you see Him. If you do not see Him, indeed He sees you." He said, "Then inform me about the hour, the judgment day or the last day." The Prophet ﷺ said, "The one who is asked doesn't know about it more than the one who is asking." So I said, "Then inform me about its signs. How I know this approaching." So the Prophet ﷺ said that the slave woman will give birth to her mistress, and in another narration, her master, and that you will see the barefooted, naked, impoverished shepherds competing in the loftiness of construction. They're going with tall building, the highest building in the world. The Prophet, then this man asking, departed. And Umar radiallahu anhu said, "And I stayed for a time." Then the Prophet ﷺ asked Umar, "Do you know who the questioner was, who the man asking?" So I said, "Allah wa Rasuluh, Allah and His Messenger are more knowing, or know best." So the Prophet ﷺ said, This is Jibreel. He came to you to teach your religion, and this was narrated by Imam Muslim. So we're going to mention the third hadith and start our commentary on them. The third hadith, الحديث الثالث عن أبي عبد الرحمن عبد الله بن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنهما قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: بني الإسلام على 5: شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان. رواه البخاري ومسلم. وهكذا الرواية بتأخير الصوم عن الحج. So the third hadith on the authority of Abu Abdul Rahman, Abdullah, who is the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhuma, he said, "I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, Islam has been built on 5, testifying that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Messenger of Allah. The establishment of prayers, giving zakah, making the pilgrimage to the house, and fasting Ramadan." And this is narrated by both Al-Bukhari and Muslim, rahimahumullah ta'ala. So this second hadith is a very, very great hadith, as it includes the explanation for the entire religion. It mentioned Islam, it mentioned Iman, it mentioned Ihsan, it mentioned a lot of knowledge actually. To the extent that the Prophet ﷺ said at its end, "This is Jibreel, he came to you to teach you your religion." Because he's explained in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ explained the ranks of Islam, Iman and Ihsan. We're going to mention this, so we're going to have a brief introduction about Islam and Iman, and then next time inshallah we're going to go more in depth about the pillars of Islam and the pillars of faith, of Iman. As said, we want to make a foundation, so might take some time. It might take another 2 or 3 majlises. But anyways, So in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ explained Islam as the apparent deeds, things that you do, things that you say, things that you do, whether it was a saying or a doing. He mentioned as a definition of the Islam in the second hadith what he mentioned as the pillars of the Islam in the third hadith. On other narrations of the same hadith, so this hadith, Hadith Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, the second hadith, is also narrated or reported by other Sahaba, by other companions, like Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. He mentioned the same hadith, and this hadith is by the narration of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, is narrated in the two books, in the Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. A little bit of difference in the words. He mentioned Iman before Islam, but at the end it's the same hadith. So in other narration of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned other deeds like completing the ablution in Islam. So he mentioned إقام الصلاة إيتاء الزكاة and completing ablution. And on other hadiths, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned some other apparent deeds and associated with Islam. Like when he said that the Muslim is the one who other Muslims are safe from his tongue and hand. And when Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asked about which Islam is best, he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to feed or to give food and say salam to those who you know and whom you don't know. Which indicates that all the apparent deeds are included in the definition of Islam. What also is included in the definition of Islam is abandoning the wrong deeds, wrongdoings, the haram things. As Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned on other hadith, من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. From the perfection of person's Islam is his leaving alone what doesn't concern him. This is the 12th hadith in the Arba'in Nawawiyah. We're going to talk about it later, inshallah, when we reach to it. So, in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ explained or defined the Islam by the apparent deeds, and defined the Iman, the faith, by the internal beliefs. He said it is to believe in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last day, and to believe in fate, both the good and the evil. As in Surah Al-Baqarah, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. The messenger believes in what was sent down to him from his Lord, and as do the believers. All of them believe in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers. We do not differentiate between any of His messengers. And actually, when you see this definition of Iman from the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and compare it, astaghfirullah, not compare it, we know that this is the truth and this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said is the truth and it is the right. And then you find that the Imams or the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah al Jama'ah, especially the Salaf, mentioned that Iman is saying and doing an intention. Is Iman qawl wa amal. And this was very popular between them, and they actually, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned this is a consensus between the Sahaba and Tabi'een, that Islam is قول باللسان وعمل بالأركان واعتقاد بالجنان. Same thing, same definition, same meaning with different words, that it includes what you believe from in your heart, what you say with your tongue, and what you do with your body. And this might be an apparent contradiction with what the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and this becomes clear when you know that there are some certain words in Arabic or even in other language that have different meanings when they come together, and they have the same meanings when they said separately. From them is Islam and Iman. So in short, when you say Islam only and you don't mention the Iman, it includes the apparent deeds and the inner belief. And when you mention Iman only without the mention of Islam, it includes the pillars of Islam or the apparent deeds and the inner faith. And this is known in, as I told you, in the language, like when we say the faqir and the miskin. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين. What is the difference between them? Both of them, both faqir and miskin, doesn't have enough. So if we say fuqara and we don't mention anything else, or we say masakin and don't mention anything else, it's the same meaning. But when they come together, al-fuqara and masakin, then one of them is the person who doesn't find what, or doesn't have what sustains him for most of the time, and the other one has what sustains him for most of the time, and only 2-3 days he can sustain. So like a person whose income just covers him for 3-4 days of the month, and the other one is the other way around. His income covers him for the whole month except for 3 or 4 days. So when we mention those two words, they are of the same meaning. When they mention them together, when they mention them separately, they include each other. Same with the Islam and Iman. So this took less than I thought. So yeah, it was 5 minutes less than what I thought. Anyways, alhamdulillah, I think it's better that way, that we're just mentioning or talking English only. I know that everyone will understand English, but just to make it, alternating between English and Arabic is hard. Next time, inshallah, we're going to start with the Shahadatain. We'll go a little bit in deep with the Shahadatain, but we're going just to touch on the Salat, Siyam, Zakah, and Hajj, because I know there will be fiqh lessons, right? So we're just gonna touch on them, and then we're gonna start with the Iman, inshallah. We'll go deep with the Iman in believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His angel and His messengers and His books, and in Qadr and Fate. Inshallah, we'll mention also some important information about this. Then we're going to mention also about the signs of the last day. And this will conclude those 2 hadiths. Then we'll go for the 4th hadith, inshallah, maybe in 2 or 3 majlis. And that's it. So that's it for today. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khairan for attending and for hearing. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.